Last night, you dreamed. Statistically, several times. You just don't remember most of it. Somewhere in the dark, unsupervised hours between falling asleep and your alarm going off, your brain built an entire world from scratch. It gave you a body that could fly, or couldn't run, or had way too many teeth. Maybe you were being chased. Maybe you were back in a classroom you haven't seen in 20 years, failing a test in a class you don't remember enrolling in.
Maybe an old friend showed up wearing a stranger's face, and somehow that felt completely normal at the time. It populated the world with people who don't exist, dropped you into a story with no first act, and then quietly deleted most of the footage before you opened your eyes. You've done this every single night of your life. So has everyone you've ever met. And almost none of you has ever seriously asked why.
There's a popular answer, and it's been around for well over a century. Dreams are secret transmissions from your subconscious, repressed wishes, smuggled past your defenses, and dressed up in symbols, as if your brain hired the world's most confusing ghostwriter to work the night shift. That's Sigmund Freud's version. He laid it out in 1900 in The Interpretation of Dreams, arguing that every dream, no matter how nonsensical it looked on the surface, was really a disguised wish trying to sneak past the part of your mind standing guard while you slept. It's a compelling theory. It's also the one most people still reach for by default, more than a century and a great deal of contradicting evidence later.
It's also, according to nearly everyone who has spent their career actually studying sleeping brains, mostly wrong. The real explanation took decades, several arguments between very serious scientists, and one extremely curious graduate student to piece together. And by the end of this, you're going to understand why the worst nightmare you've ever had was, in a strange way, your brain trying to help you. It starts, unexpectedly, with somebody's kid. In 1952, a graduate student named Eugene Aserinsky was watching his young son sleep. Mostly because that's the kind of thing exhausted researchers with young children do at 2 a.m. He noticed something odd. Every so often, the boy's eyes would twitch rapidly underneath his closed eyelids, not the slow drift of ordinary sleep. Fast, jerky, in distinct bursts. Aserinsky mentioned it to his advisor at the University of Chicago, a physiologist named Nathaniel Kleitman, who had spent decades trying to understand sleep, and up to that point, hadn't found it particularly interesting. This changed his mind. They wired up adult volunteers and tracked their eye movements through the night. The pattern held. These rapid eye movements weren't random or occasional. They showed up in predictable cycles, several times a night, each one lasting longer than the last as the night went on. And when the researchers woke people up in the middle of one, almost everyone reported the same thing. They'd been dreaming, and usually in vivid detail. Published in 1953, the discovery of what we now call REM sleep quietly overturned an assumption nobody had bothered to question. Sleep isn't one long, flat state where the brain politely shuts off for the night. It's a cycle made of distinct stages, and one of them, REM sleep, looks almost identical to being awake. Fast brain activity, rapid eye movement. The only difference is your body is essentially paralyzed and you're hallucinating a grocery store that's somehow also your childhood bedroom. So now we knew when dreaming happens. Nobody yet knew why it happens. For the next 20-some years, Freud's symbolic interpretation kept its grip on the conversation, mostly because nobody had built a serious alternative. That changed in 1977 when two Harvard psychiatrists, J. Allan Hobson and Robert McCarley, looked at what was actually happening inside the brainstem during REM sleep and didn't love what they saw. Their theory, activation synthesis, made a genuinely rude proposal. Dreams, they argued, aren't hidden messages at all. Here's the idea. During REM sleep, the brainstem, the primitive stalk of tissue at the base of your brain, fires off essentially random electrical signals, all on its own, with no input from the outside world. No message, no agenda. Just noise. Your cortex, the part of your brain that's pathologically obsessed with making sense of things, receives that noise anyway and does what it always does. It builds a story out of it. Any story. The stranger the input, the stranger the story it stitches together to explain it.
Under this theory, that dream where your childhood dentist was somehow also your boss and you were both late for a flight you didn't know you'd booked isn't a secret window into your anxieties. It's your cortex doing improv with static and being disturbingly committed to the bit. It was the first major dream theory grounded in actual neuroscience instead of interpretation, and it landed in the psychoanalytic world like a grenade because it meant your dreams might not be trying to tell you anything at all. Except that explanation had a problem of its own.
If dreams really were random noise dressed up as narrative, you'd expect the weirdness to be spread evenly across every kind of human experience. It isn't. Ask almost anyone what they actually dream about, and a suspiciously specific theme keeps showing up. Being chased, falling, getting caught somewhere you shouldn't be. Showing up to something important, completely unprepared, occasionally without pants. That pattern is what caught the attention of Finnish researcher Antti Revonsuo in the early 2000s. Dream content, he noticed, isn't random at all. It's organized, and it's organized almost entirely around danger. Revonsuo proposed what's now called threat simulation theory. Dreaming evolved as a kind of nightly fire drill.
For most of human history, the world was trying to kill you on a fairly regular basis, and a brain that could rehearse escaping predators, rivals, and disasters safely, repeatedly, with zero real-world consequences, had a genuine survival edge over a brain that couldn't. Think of it less like therapy and more like a flight simulator. A pilot who has crashed 100 times in a simulator is a better pilot in the one moment it counts for real. And a brain that has run from 100 imaginary predators might react half a second faster when a real one shows up. His research backs this up. Across recorded dreams, fear is the single most common emotion, by a wide margin. Anger comes in second. And children raised in genuinely dangerous environments report more threat-heavy dreams than children who aren't. Sit with that for a second. Your nightmares might not be a malfunction. They might be a feature. Somewhere in your evolutionary history, being chased by something terrifying in your sleep was practice for being chased by something terrifying while awake. But that still doesn't fully explain why dreaming so often feels less like combat training and more like unresolved emotional laundry. Which brings us to the twist. In 2009, neuroscientist Matthew Walker, then at UC Berkeley, published research on something he ended up calling overnight therapy. Here's the setup. REM sleep is the only point in your entire 24-hour cycle when your brain is almost completely drained of noradrenaline, the chemical most responsible for your stress response. At that exact moment, the emotional centers of your brain, the amygdala and hippocampus, light up and start replaying your day, the awkward conversation, the thing your coworker said that you're still turning over, the argument you didn't finish. Your brain revisits all of it in vivid, uncomfortable detail, in the one chemical environment of the entire day specifically missing the ingredient that makes it hurt. In one of Walker's experiments, volunteers looked at emotionally upsetting images twice, once in the evening and again the next day, with either a full night of sleep or a day spent awake in between. The people who slept, and specifically who got real REM sleep, rated the images as noticeably less distressing the second time around than the people who'd stayed awake the whole stretch. Their brain scans backed up what they were reporting. Less activity in the amygdala, more engagement from the calmer, more rational prefrontal cortex. The memory wasn't erased, it was defanged. So, which theory is correct? Is dreaming meaningless static, an evolutionary threat simulator, or a nightly therapy session? The slightly unsatisfying, extremely accurate answer is probably all three, running simultaneously, for different reasons, and none of them involve decoding secret symbols. Your dreaming brain doesn't have one job description.
It's improvising with random noise, running you through danger drills, and quietly defusing yesterday's emotional landmines, all at the same time. The reason the whole thing feels so bizarre isn't a bug. The weirdness is the mechanism. A memory wrapped in a strange enough story is a memory your waking brain can revisit without immediately panicking about it. Which is probably why, the night before a big exam you didn't study for, you don't dream about studying. You dream about showing up to take it and realizing you forgot to wear pants.
Your brain isn't mocking you, even though it feels that way. It's taking the actual source of your anxiety, tomorrow, the test, the judgment of everyone in the room, and running it through a safer simulation. Ridiculous enough that you can survive watching it, close enough to true that it still does the job. It's also why breakups show up in dreams for months after they're technically over, why you keep dreaming about a job you quit years ago, and why the version of your childhood home in your dreams has rooms that don't actually exist. Falling dreams make sense the same way. For most of human history, falling from a height, out of a tree or off a cliff edge, was a genuine and common way to die. So it's not exactly shocking that your threat simulation system still runs that particular drill on a regular rotation, long after you last needed it. Teeth falling out? One of the most commonly reported dreams on record is murkier. Some researchers connect it to anxiety about aging or appearance, others to nothing more dramatic than a full bladder or a night of grinding your teeth, which is a good reminder that not every dream is doing deep evolutionary or emotional work. Sometimes your brain is just narrating whatever nonsense is happening to your body that night. None of that is your subconscious trying to send you a coded message. It's your brain running the same 3 systems it's been running for your entire life.
Simulating danger, processing emotion, filling in noise with narrative, because narrative is the only language your cortex knows how to speak. So, next time you wake up from a dream where you were being chased through your old school by your dentist who was somehow also your boss, don't just shrug it off as nonsense. Somewhere in that ridiculous nightly footage, your brain was running threat drills, processing yesterday's emotional debris, and improvising with static, all at once. All without asking your permission, and all while you were completely unconscious for the entire production.
You didn't just sleep last night. You just don't remember most of the work your brain did while you were gone.